Forward. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome. Here today, we're with the Mercer team, and my name's Eva. I'm from the Birchal team, part of the campaigns team here at Birchal. And very soon, I'll be introducing you to the founders that we have on our screen. This is the founding team of Mercer. They're here to talk to us about a really exciting investment opportunity. Before we jump into that, first off, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm streaming in from. Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we'd like to pay our respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. Now, to explain a little bit about who Birchal is working with the Mercer team on their upcoming crowdsource funding offer. Crowdsource funding is a form of fundraising in Australia that allows growing businesses to source capital from a large number of investors through an online platform such as Birchal. This regime will enable Mercer to raise funds from their community and the public at large in exchange for equity in their business. The information and discussion in this webinar is for informational purposes and should not be considered as advice or a recommendation to invest, and Birchal Financial Services will be the licensed intermediary for this offer. Please, we encourage you to do your own research. Always consider the offer document, which will be available from next Tuesday, and the general risk warning before investing. More information about who Birchal is and crowdsource funding in general is available on our website at www.birchal.com. All right, now just a very brief overview about how today's session will run. In just a moment, I'm going to hand over directly to the Mercer team, who you can see on your screen. They'll kick things off with a presentation on this investment opportunity, and that will be followed by an audience Q&A. To submit a question, look to the bottom of your Zoom screen and you will see a little Q&A bubble. Please pop your question in the Q&A box. As we go along, you can start asking your questions now, and we will then answer the questions live after the presentation. We are recording this session today, so if you do have to jump off early for any reason, a recording of this presentation will be sent around afterwards. Anyway, enough of the housekeeping. Without further ado, I want to hand over directly to the Mercer team, and they'll introduce themselves to you right now. So over to you.
Thanks so much, Eva, and thank you everybody who has taken time out of their busy days to join us. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your interest in our business. I think we're not going to spend a great deal of time on the intros. My name is Ben. I am the CEO of Mercer and a co-founder. I've got a lot of startup scars. I started my career in management consulting. I've done a variety of things, but I love business. I love this business in particular, and I am very excited to share more with you. Over to you, Sam.
I'm Sam. I'm the CRO, so look after the revenue. I come from the industry, so I had about kind of 15, 20 years of experience prior to Mercer within the space, which gives us really good depth of understanding of what we're doing. And yeah, prior to that, I worked in finance.
I'm Neil. I am founding investor and advisor. I think I was introduced, Ben and Sam together about 2.5 years ago, so I'm kind of partially responsible for the beginning of Mercer.
It's all his fault.
And so I'm like Brian, like I said, I'm a founding investor. So
Yep. Hi guys, I'm Brian Shanahan. I've always been a lover of merch. Anybody that knows me, whether I was at KPMG, JP Morgan, eBay, Gumtree, Temple & Webster, I've always found merch as a really great product that you can give to employees or to potential customers. They really value it. But I personally have also found it really hard to order merchandise. And guys will talk about it later on, but it used to be trying to find the right sort of the person that did the merchandise ordering, and then the process was really hard. So when I met Sam and Ben and they talked about the opportunity, I was all in because I really believe this is a huge market. No one does it well in Australia. In fact, people don't do it at all, just about the way that we're proposing or the way that we've been doing it. And I really believe in this opportunity. So I've been in since the beginning as well with Neil and acting as sounding boards and advisors to Ben and Sam over the last couple of years and really enjoyed the journey. So I'll now hand over back to Ben.
Thanks so much, Brian. So look, we are disrupting what is a huge global market, and it's something you may not have thought much about, but it is enormous. So approximately $127 billion globally. It's roughly $2.2 billion in Australia alone. And it's an industry stuck in the 70s. We are building a platform that makes it really easy for businesses of all shapes and sizes to buy, manage, and distribute merchandise and quality merch that they'll actually want to keep. Now, when Sam and I met, apart from being given cheap pre-landfill junk, is what I would call it, merch when I was in corporate, I hadn't really thought much about merch. And as Sam started to kind of educate me on the industry, I started seeing it everywhere. And if you guys have joined the EOI early, you might feel the same. It literally is everywhere. It's on the sport field, it's at your gym, it's at the coffee, the cafe you go to, your local cafe on the corner. I was running through Melbourne Airport last Thursday, and I'm not joking, probably 90% of the people I saw walking through Melbourne Airport, during business rush hour, were wearing merch. So it really is everywhere. And as I started to, learn more about the issues with it, the structural problems with it, I started to look at the opportunity as kind of a diamond hiding in plain sight. So promotional merch is everywhere, but really how it gets everywhere is the problem that we're aiming to solve.
So yeah, so as mentioned, I came from the industry, as well as some of our key team members are also sort of industry veterans. And it's a really fragmented network of distributors that supply this industry. So think of them like mom and pop shops back in the 90s in the retail phase. And so you've got this small business supplying all these kind of corporates around the country. So it's extremely fragmented and sort of open for disruption because they are all these micro businesses. And because they are micro businesses, they haven't had the ability to invest and create technology the way in which we have. And so at the moment, merch is messy. There's a lot of back and forth. Even to do something basic has, like a 15-step process in it. And it's sort of an industry that has justified its existence through needless complexity of its own desire. So we've worked really, really hard to use technologies to shift those complexities out of what the customer sees and deliver them a 5-step process to make the buying journey as easy as it can be. So what once took, up to a week to place an order is something that can be done within 45 seconds now on our platform. And the best part about it is because it's platform driven, we get orders at 2 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, Saturday, Sunday. Previously, you needed someone on the other side of your computer to actually do the work and to take the inquiry or make the phone call back to you in order to do it. So we've sort of democratized the ability to order merch when it suits you. And our goal has always been really simple. It was to simplify the process, to automate the industry. And we think that that'll allow us to become the default platform in the space. And that works for businesses of all shapes and sizes.
So in thinking about the market and the way the market is structured, what we're doing here is we're disrupting the distributor tier. And there are tens of thousands of these globally. There are about 1,300 of them in Australia alone. And they are largely small, unsophisticated players. They have built their businesses on phone, email, and literally, and I can't exaggerate, they literally drive around with station wagons full of merch, selling into the customers. We are the digital destination. We've built this platform to solve all of the problems that businesses have. And we want to be the place that people go to when they think of merch. And by doing that, we're meeting the needs of the millennials, they're digital natives. They think about being planet positive, and it's a disruption play for this industry. So this is something that's really important to all of us. We are all nature nerds. We all like being outdoors. And I know this is something that was a non-negotiable for me in the very beginning. One of my reservations about going into this business was the fact that 60 to 70% of merch ends up in landfill. It's a shocking amount. And no one is truly trying to offer what I'd say is a responsible or planet positive approach to this. It's not terribly difficult to do so. I'll give you an example. We had a radio station in Sydney. They called us up and they were asking for 250,000 plastic whistles for a New Year's Eve event. And, this was very early days. This is like our first 6 months MVP land. And we would have loved to have had the revenue, but we knew that those 250,000 whistles were going to end up in the bin. They were going to be thrown away by the first of the year. They were going to end up in the harbor, and we rejected the order. And it was a tough call at the time. And I remember we thought about it, and we just decided it's not the right thing to do. It's not a place that we want to play. And so we decided not to do it. And, all of the time and effort that went to create those products, to brand them, to ship them over here, it just seems ludicrous to us that people would create things that are just made to fail. Now, we like to keep things simple, and our business model is no exception to this. We have what I would argue is a world-class digital advertising discipline, which we've worked very hard and we continually test and refine to attract people to our website. And we try to convert those people into customers. And the more times that we can convert them into customers, we yield more transactions. Very importantly, we just launched in May our first subscription SaaS revenue stream. And that is, if we think about where the evolution of the platform is going, most of the things and most of the problems that we're trying to solve for customers, they're services that they'll rely on continually. And so we've got a number of SaaS revenue streams that are built into our future plan. And that's ultimately where we're heading. And look, it's been going really well. I would say the life of an early stage startup is a hard one, but you have these little pat yourself on the back moments. When I look at these numbers, this is one of those moments for me. We only launched this MVP in February of 2022. We've only been in market for 2.5 years. And you can see some of the stats up there. We've delighted, thousands of customers. We've generated a lot of revenue. We've done a lot of orders. We've delivered a lot of merch. Importantly, we have a very high NPS score. So we're delighting customers as we're doing this. And then very importantly, just in the last year, in FY24, we grew 132% year on year to 2.9 million. So we've really only begun to unlock what I would say is a huge market opportunity. And this is, there are a lot of words on the screen, and I'm not going to go and read all the words to you, but I think, we are endeavoring to do a couple of things. We have built the best platform, we feel, and we will continue to listen to our customers and continue to build out that platform and make it better and better. And very importantly, we are obsessed by doing things that make great businesses great. And so you see a lot of the pieces up here, providing excellent customer service is something that every great business has to do. So we don't just take these bullet points as things that we, can tick the box for. We really believe that we are doing everything we can to make this great business great. And we have a lot of great customers as a result. There are some big names on this screen. These are all repeat customers. So, these aren't one and dones. These are customers that have been coming back to us, even though, to be frank, we didn't actually go after the large end of the market. A lot of these guys found us through our digital marketing activities. And, the people who are researching and clicking buy, they would much rather go through and have a great, slick digital experience than pick up a phone and, write an email back and forth. So there's some great businesses on here, but I'll share another thing that's made me immensely proud about this process, this CSF process, is a lot of the people that are on this call right now, on this webinar, a lot of people have signed up for the EOI that want to back us with their hard-earned dollars are our existing customers. And that makes me proud because they know how hard it used to be, and they know how much better we've made it, and they tell us this all the time. And we've had some interesting, conversations with, competitors, seeing some things that they've said. At the end of the day, this is the scoreboard. The customers love what we're doing. We continue to treat them well. We continue to make their lives easier. So what are we doing raising funds? We have built this engine, this marketing engine that again, for a disruption play, we have to acquire customers at a reasonable customer acquisition cost, and we need to do it at scale. And so we've put a lot of time and effort into developing our content strategy, leveraging SEM, SEO. Really, one portion of the use of funds is around customer acquisition growth. We have built a fantastic fire. We want to fuel that fire. And then the next piece is to continue to listen to our customers and build out the features that they want. We're doing a lot of, we are storing and distributing merch on behalf of customers today, but we haven't built it in such a way that it is completely automated. So we really want to build out this set of features that, again, as Sam said earlier, will position us as a default provider. We don't want people to even have to think about the problems that they have with merch. We just want them to end at Mercha, click some buttons, and get the problem solved. Terms of the offer we can't share as of yet, so we thought we'd just put this on screen. Eva touched on this earlier. This is set out in the CSF offer document. The offer period opens noon on Tuesday, and you'll be able to see the finalized documents then. So we encourage you, if you have not already, definitely go to our page on the virtual website. Make sure you are signed up, because otherwise you will not have access to the offer document. This is an interesting thing, I think, as a longtime retail investor myself and somebody who's passionate about startups and business. Really good question is, what do I need to believe in this opportunity? I hope, if nothing else, you've come away from the fact that it is obvious to us, it's obvious to our customers, it's obvious to our competitors in this market that this industry is ripe for disruption. And look, there are a couple of other innovators overseas that we pay attention to, and we look at what they're doing. But in this market and in Asia Pacific, there are not people that we think are innovating in our direct competition. So I think the market is absolutely ripe for disruption. And the second piece is, can Mercha win the market? I think we've got a great head start. I think we have a fantastic team. This is just 4 of the team. I'm looking at another member of the team over here who is taking some awesome behind the scenes footage for us. We have a tremendous team in place. I'm actually I'm one of the only people on the team that does not have direct industry experience. We have 30 or 40 years of industry experience, just clustered in a few people on the team.
It's a deep bench.
It's a deep bench. And I think we have the right team. I think we have an excellent plan. I think we are attacking a huge, painful problem for businesses. And I think we can win the market. And I hope you agree. Okay, so this is where we wanted to spend
the Q&A part.
Most of our time. This is hopefully what most of you are here for. Don't be shy. We like questions. We're a practical, friendly bunch. I think at this point, we'll hand it over to you, Miss Eva. And I'd love to hear some questions from the group. Make them hard.
Thanks so much, Ben, Brian, Neil, Sam. That was awesome. Such an interesting overview about, not only how Merch is tackling the problem, but what the problem itself is, and the kind of clunkiness of the industry that you're disrupting. I have 2 questions that I would like to ask, and then we're going to kick off straight into audience Q&A. I can see a few questions coming through. Please, to the audience, this is your chance to ask the founding team any of those burning questions. So please pop them in the chat. I think someone has raised a hand, but please pop your question in the chat and we'll be able to ask it out loud, so that anyone that watches this later also gets to learn from your questions as well. But first off, just to kick us off, I want to understand, have any VCs invested in Mercha to date? And if yes, do you know why?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. So yes, we have had, so up until January of 2023, the business was bootstrapped. So it was just founders, and then we intersected with a VC. We liked him, he liked us, and so yeah, we have I think 3 VCs that have put money into Mercha early. We actually have one, our lovely friend and advisor Josh. He's actually on the call today, and yeah, Josh, that's probably a good question for you to answer. What do you like about Mercha?
Thanks, Ben. So I'm Josh. I'm a partner at Utility Group, investor and advisor of Mercher. There was lots that we liked about the business when we invested a little over 12 months ago. I think first and foremost for us, it's built on the foundations of a really strong team. The mixing of commercial and industry experience creates the foundations to understand exactly the problem that needs to be solved and solve it in a practical and cash efficient way. We really like the fact that the team is building for a future that we believe in. The shift of services and businesses online is absolutely happening. I don't think anyone can argue with that process. And this is in an industry that seems to have been left behind. They haven't bothered to make the move yet. And we've seen that this is now happening through Mercher and that they're able to support and drive that opportunity for people. We see generational changes, people changes, there's less and less time. We want to be able to order things at any time of the day and have it done very quickly. And I'm a person who believes strongly in brand and merch as well. And I don't like the idea of having to pick up the phone in the middle of the day and call someone to get information that I could just get online, or to have to send away an email quote to a bunch of different people and wait 5 to 7 days to hear back before I can do anything. And then lastly, we love that this is a technology and platform play. It makes it infinitely scalable. The opportunities Australia-wide, internationally are all there if you're built on the foundations of technology. And we're very fortunate that in the last 12 months that we've been an investor, you'll have seen from previous slides, the business has been able to grow really quickly, which gives us a lot of confidence going forward as well. So we're exceptionally excited about the future that Mercher holds for us and anyone else that chooses to join the journey.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Josh. Some really unique insights, I think, for everyone watching at home and understanding why you choose to invest in Mercher. We've got some really good questions coming through, so please keep posting them. Now I'm going to start running through them. First question out to the Mercher team. Who do you see as your key competitors in Australia and globally? And importantly, what are your key points of differentiation? Why would a business use Mercher over Redbubble, Printify, Gelato, Sticker Mule?
Yeah, so I can answer that given the knowledge of the competitor landscape. I think where in those examples that have been given, they're very focused on a very unique category within the broader merch as a category as a whole. So Sticker Mule, they do stickers and tote bags. Great. If I want t-shirts, I can't go to Sticker Mule. If I want anything outside of their limited range, it's a relatively limited offering. Redbubble, if I'm a 16-year-old graphic designer and I want to make my own t-shirt, it's a fantastic offering to do 10 tees as a one-off that I want to sell to my friends. So where those businesses sit is a little bit more in a very niche spot that is also applicable to outside of B2B. There's probably a lot of B2C in there. Even with Printify, you can call on one-offs, whereas we're very much more focused on the B2B section of the market. And the beauty of that is it actually ratchets up our average order value because the baskets that we're producing have the basket of goods that people are ordering are actually quite a lot wider than those really narrow focused of, a 16-year-old guy that wants to do a retail t-shirt run. Printify is a fantastic offering for them. Whereas if you're a corporate that has an event and you want 300 tote bags with caps, bottles, pens, notebooks, we are hands down the easiest way to order that on the planet. Yeah.
And look, I'll expand on that a little bit. We pay a lot of attention to competitors here and abroad. I think if we think about the competitive landscape in Australia, there's kind of two classes that I'd look at. There are people that just are not digital. They don't want to be digital. They are the people driving around in station wagons, right? And frankly, we don't really worry that much about those guys. They don't, we are a digital disruption play. So for those people to go and build a technology platform like the one we've built, they would have to have a plan, they would have to have capital. Like it was not easy and continues to not be easy to build.
Yeah.
There are businesses in Australia that do have digital presences. Some of them in particular that we pay attention to. Good Things would be one of them. I've looked at Good Things website and it's lovely. I know though, my understanding is, just reverting back to the example of the whistles, I don't think they would have turned down that order. So that is a point of differentiation. I think that is an important part of our proposition, is that if it is on our site, the product has to be made to last and it has to be made fairly. And we take that seriously. So that's a key point of differentiation. If I look overseas, I kind of referred to a couple of innovators that we pay attention to. There are two in particular in the US that we pay a lot of attention to and have so for a long time, really great businesses. One is called swag.com and one is called, not affiliated at all, swagup.com. So not the same types of businesses. They have kind of a different offering. Swag.com, I would say, they started with a more kind of bulk merchandise approach, and they have since expanded that offering in, using technology again to streamline and automate. And they've added, other services like merch packs, for example, which is a service that we offer. Swag Up kind of started with merch packs, and that's been their thing. Merch packs being like, picture a beautifully boxed onboarding pack for a new starter. So those are two examples of overseas innovators that we look at them, a lot of respect for them. We pay attention to them. We look at their roadmap. I think that's a good answer.
That's great. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Did you want to add more?
No, that's it.
Very thorough overview of both the local and global competitive landscape. If anyone has any more targeted questions about competition, please pop them in the chat. I do have two questions kind of about order size. So the first question is, what has been your largest order in dollar amount so far?
Yeah, I can answer that. So it was $389,000.
Oh, wow.
Including GST, sorry. Yeah. So we they've been a fantastic customer, and they've been a they've placed multiple orders. And yeah, that was our single largest. Our probably most interesting was one that came through on a Friday afternoon about 5 weeks into the process, when we were still learning, the market. And he placed an order and checked out with a corporate Amex for $76,000, including GST, and just said he kept shopping because it was so easy. So yeah, they were good ones.
But interestingly, and I will just call out, those types of orders don't happen every day. And that wasn't really, again, we built the platform to be able to handle, volume, right? So if you have a team of 10 people, we have a philosophy that Neil has brought to us called inch wide, mile deep. So we're fairly focused on kind of the SME market, the people that, to Sam's point earlier about the industry, are not very well serviced. And our average order value is great. It's about $2,500, but we have I would say, it was 332,000 ex GST. Those don't happen all the time.
No.
Most of our orders, well, again, if you look at our average, you look at our medium, again, in that kind of $2,000 range.
Yeah.
Right.
Good question.
They were our largest.
That was the largest. And good question. And we were pretty excited about that.
It's fascinating to see the range as well.
Yep.
I think you've half answered this about your average customer spend being about $2,500. The question goes a bit deeper and asks, how is this tracked? What is the percentage of repeat customers? What is your current NPS? And how has this tracked over time? So kind of two parts there.
Brian.
Yeah.
So I think some of this information is actually included in the offer document that will be coming out next week. But I think I can disclose that about 36% of our orders are repeat orders, which is a fantastic sign that our customers enjoy, love what they're getting, they're delighted, and they keep coming back for more. So that's a very positive. And we're seeing that repeat customer behaviour, repeat order behaviour increase from year to year. The other question was in regards to, was it average order value?
They wanted to know how we track that information.
Yeah, so I think net promoter score, we did do a survey of our customer base, and it had a very positive NPS score, which was actually 88%. But I think actually another indicator, I guess, of how satisfied our customers have been is the reviews, and our scores have been getting 4.8 out of 5. And that's probably equivalent to 5 to 10% of our customers have given us a review and given us a score of 4.8 out of 5, which I think is fabulous and demonstrates we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, and that is tracked. I mean, you can go on our website right now, you can click on the reviews tab, and you can see they are verified customer reviews, as in reviews can often be a game for people. They're not a game for us. So you can go and you can see it there. The data is all there. Interestingly, also the question I think somebody was asking about, how do we track the data to know? And I would say that we track an extraordinary amount of metrics for the business, of which I would say one of my favorite things, and one of the things I've learned from Brian, is just how important tracking all the metrics and how to do it. But maybe do you want to share a little bit about our numbers discipline, because it's strong.
Look, we track all sorts of metrics. I'm not going to disclose a lot of them now, but we disclose, it's everything from, well, I guess visits to the site, conversion rates, it's average order values, it's repeat customers, it's customer satisfaction scores, it's time to delivery. There's a host of different metrics that we have to look at throughout the process, from before they even come to our website, to how satisfied and they are with the first delivery, and then the repeat purchasing. So there's lots of metrics out there. I think if you don't measure it, you can't improve. So we measure. We have metrics across the system, and the guys do a fabulous job addressing those metrics when they're up and down, and that's what allowed us to deliver such great revenue returns.
And I'll just share. I mean, we go through these numbers as a founding team. We go through them every Monday morning. So without fail, come hell or high water, we pull all of our data. We pull it from all of the various sources, from Google, from Bing, from Shopify, which is our current POS system. So we pull all of this data in. We have a number of we have a spreadsheet that has a number of tabs that tracks and manages a few things. Just as this is just a small insight into some of the things that we discovered through our very robust tracking of numbers. Is we know on average that customers come to us and then they buy roughly 4 months later, right? So businesses on average, and this is our hypothesis from Sam's industry experience, is that customers on average buy merch 2 to 3 times a year. We have some customers who order from us twice a month, but on average it's about 2 to 3 times a year. But we now have, rather than having a hypothesis, we know almost down to the day that this is when they order. So we have a little notice that goes out to those people saying, hey, just checking in, how's your merch going? So there are things that we can do that are data driven to help repeat orders and retention. That's just one example. Yeah, we love numbers.
That's great, team. This is a really interesting question. Now, you've clearly solved a lot of challenges in this space. What's a problem that you haven't solved yet?
Yeah, I can answer that because there's a few, and it's essentially where we focused the business where we focused our first bit of attention was in the transaction, was digitalizing the transaction for the brands and for the customers. Because if we can't digitalize the transaction element, because people don't want it, they want to get a catalog email to them, or they want to get a phone call or an inquiry or go and have a coffee with someone, there's no point in taking the business any further. But after seeing the traction we've got at the transaction element, now what we're doing, and that's what part of the raise is for, is to move further up the service or the value stream for those auxiliary services that are associated with merch. So one of the things that we thought we were kind of the smartest people in the room on was killing the quote, so that people could just check out at the start. So we didn't have an ability to get instant pricing. It turns out that our buyers are typically early-ish, sort of mid to early part of their career, and so they do the work, they don't control the budget. So they've got to go to someone to say, hey, can I order these $2,000 drink bottles? So the quote is actually really important. And right now the quote goes out in a a satisfactory sort of way. We don't comparing it to other parts of the industry. So one of the things that we want to do is actually really make that quoting element really sexy, so that when it goes out with the mock-up. You know, the customer doing it can create those kind of beautiful presentations themselves. That's probably one of the first things we want to solve, because that's a genuine pain point that we've actually had feedback on. That great to complete the transaction. You know, we'd love to see that same functionality for getting a quote. That's probably the first one. And then there's a bunch of auxiliary services that we want to add into our platform. Yeah. That makes those auxiliary services easier.
Yeah. And I'll go even one step further and say that what you see today, if you haven't already, go to merchant.com.au. It's pretty cool. That is literally what you see. That's step one in the journey. So I love the product and technology. That's the thing that gets me up in the morning. So I get a little overexcited about it, as I get told a lot. But we looked at the whole journey that a business customer has to go through, from the time that they start researching all the way through to clicking purchase, whether or not it's the same person who's researching and clicking buy, which sometimes is, sometimes isn't. But when we looked at that and we mapped out the pain points across the journey, we found that was the single biggest pain point. It was the, I literally, while I was mystery shopping customers, I'm not joking, you can do this today if you want. I can challenge you all on the call to do this. I went and logged onto a competitor's website, and I didn't handpick one. I just Googled for something that I'd be buying, and I logged on the site and I clicked a button, and I couldn't purchase. I clicked get a quote, and it literally brought up an email on my screen with a bunch of things that I had to fill in. And I filled them in and I sent it. I didn't hear back for 3 days. The purchase journey was the single biggest pain point. That's why we addressed it first. Second piece, and actually this is something that you don't often see and hear about these sorts of things, because they're just not as sexy, not front-facing stuff. But one of the things that Brian said when Brian started getting involved in the business is our IP is actually going to sit largely on the back end. Okay, it's going to be things that we do that help us to deliver things faster and more accurately than everyone else. And the second piece in our journey was actually building one of those components. We call it PAMS, Production Automation Management Systems, the biggest investment in a technology component up to that point. And it was scary because it was a lot of money to build it. We literally built it from scratch, but it reduced the time that it takes to get an order in production from roughly 90 minutes to under 10. And we've had people come into the business since then who have been in the industry for decades, and they actually couldn't believe it, how fast and easy it is. So that was another piece of technology that we built and delivered. From here, the future roadmap is where, to me, it starts getting really interesting. We talked about, streamlining and automating, but what we really want to do right now, we don't hold any inventory whatsoever. So inventory is not something that we hold, but we do hold inventory on behalf of customers who don't want to have it sitting behind their desk or jammed into a locker, in their office. And we hold those and we distribute them on behalf of customers. But they have to come to us to do it, right? So that's an extra bit of friction. It's an extra thing they have to do, and they shouldn't have to do that. So without divulging too much of the future roadmap, which again, I've been told I can't tell you exactly what we're going to do and when, but we want to make it so painfully easy for customers that they can just go log into a platform. They can see all of the merch they have. They can top up if they need new things, and it's seamless and it's click of a button, that easy. Anything to add, Brian?
That's
A lot of the roadmap actually is set out in the offer document, so there'll be more details included there.
Yeah. And nicely, we launched our first SaaS subscription revenue stream, in May, but a lot of the future view are similar services. They're things that are things that businesses will need on an ongoing basis, and therefore there will be subscription revenue, not transaction revenue.
That's great. Like thanks for giving me the overview of the kind of future problems and how you're thinking about that. And Ben, you also referenced what gets you up in the morning, but good follow on, I guess, is what's keeping you awake at night.
Live and startup, there's a lot, right? The biggest thing is easily, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm hugely optimistic about life and future. This opportunity to me is massive. Otherwise, I wouldn't have embarked on this journey. I think it is ours to win. We have started, and made good traction, and we're growing rapidly as a result, we have built this hot burning fire, and we need to put more fuel in the fire and keep building. If we don't do these things, somebody else will do them.
Yeah.
There are innovators doing these things elsewhere, but I would say there's nobody doing these things in Australia. There's nobody doing them in New Zealand. There's nobody doing them in Asia Pacific. So we need to do this. We need to do it now. This is the opportunity. The time to capture this opportunity is right now. That's the very nature of disruption. Is once you start disrupting, things happen quickly.
Yeah, because we're not creating a market is kind of a way to think of it. Every order that we're getting, we're taking from someone else, from an incumbent that can't create a digital experience for those customers when they want a digital experience. So, there's no market that we're creating. Everything is being taken from the incumbents that have chosen to put their stake in the ground in 1998 and leave it there, whereas we don't think that that's the appropriate choice for the digital natives coming through into their buying careers.
Thanks so much. I'm going to keep going through some of these questions. First off, why have you decided to raise via crowdsource funding?
Great question again. These are awesome questions, by the way. Thank you. Thank you again for taking the time to ask them. Very good question. And I think the simple question is, again, we are a disruption play. We want to build a business as far and fast and wide as we can. And going through the traditional funding mechanisms, you don't often get the exposure to a broader audience like you would get through a crowdsourced funding raise. So we look at this as, yes, of course we want to raise funds. That's important. That adds fuel to the fire. But we also want to have more great customers on board with us. And, I can tell you through this process, we've already acquired some new customers as a result. Thank you. You're on the call to our new customers. So it's a different way of thinking about the goals of your crowdsourced funding raise. It is one part getting the funds, it's another part us elevating our profile and
we get the advocates
and getting advocates that are going to be excited to talk about us and hopefully use us in their business. And if they don't, then they're missing out.
That's
all.
Thanks for that. Okay, so the team seem well versed in the merchandise industry as a primarily tech platform business. Can you give us an overview of your experience as a team in technology? Is there an in-house CTO or development team, or is it outsourced?
Good question. Very good question. It is outsourced. So at this stage, and I think this is an acknowledged thing that as we continue to go down this path, and I would say in particular the pathway that we're going down from here, we will need to have a dedicated technology person in-house. We have a number of great partners that do have a lot of technology expertise, and I would say that our two dev teams that we use, they're great and very helpful. But I think it's always been our goal to get to the point where we have our own in-house technology team, and
it's part of the use of funds.
And it's largely, if we raise at a certain level, that unlocks the ability to bring somebody in-house. But we're constantly, regardless, we do have great development resources. Like my background is in technology. I started my career working on huge technology, $100 million systems integration projects in the US. So I can understand enough to be dangerous. You can write a line of code, probably badly now. But we really need somebody who is in-house on the team that is the CTO that's driving the future tech. Because to me, that's where the business is going.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you want to give us a bit of a sense of how many full-time people are currently in your team, and where is your head office based?
Yeah.
Good question.
So full-time people, we've got Ben and myself. We've also got two other people up in Brisbane, where our head office is based. We've got another person down in Melbourne, who's sitting in the corner, who's our marketing growth magician. And then to help with some of the auxiliary services for the platform, we've got 4 full-time people based in the Philippines that help us with a number of different back-end elements to keep the platform running and the orders pumping through as quickly as they can. Yeah, so it's a small team.
It's a small team, and that's one of the benefits of a technology business. Is, that's why we were able to grow year on year without really adding much operational. I mean, our operational costs actually went down as a percent of revenue in the last year, and it's a pretty lean team, and it's we don't need a huge amount of bodies to keep the engine running.
Yeah,
which is
Keep
good.
the lights on, so to speak.
We do know that from kind of industry connections that there have been questions how we can achieve the revenue that we have with the people that we have. That's quite an interesting one that I've heard. Yeah.
Which I would say
is PAMS, which is the secret sauce of the business.
Well, it's partially PAMS, but it's also our people are all
rock stars.
They're all rock stars. So we have a team full of rock stars, and we don't intend to have anybody on the team who is not a rock star. So having rock stars helps too, and everybody on the team is not just we don't have anybody just sitting there for getting a paycheck.
Yeah,
everybody on the team is passionate about the business. It is, I mean, in my position, by far the most important and powerful piece of what we have actually is the team we have.
That's awesome to hear.
Hugely grateful.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know everyone across your team. There's so much benefit in being so agile and being able to deliver with such a small team. Final question I have from our audience, and I do encourage, I think we'd have time for 2 more questions if anyone else in the audience sitting there has a burning question to ask. But this last question is, how are you getting in front of the buyer? And how are you getting in front of the buyer given that the person purchasing at a business can vary at every business?
That is a really, really good question. I guess I'll start by stepping back and saying, I think we have a fairly healthy understanding of personas, the people that we actually talk to, the person who is, not only the one researching, clicking buy, who's the decision maker. We think a lot about those things. So just as I mentioned before, we have this philosophy of inch wide, mile deep. So we target a couple of industries at this point, because most of our happy paying customers come from those industries. So we understand how the dynamics of those industries work fairly well. And we, as an example, we have a content-led strategy that speaks to not only the person who's researching, clicking buy, but also to the person who will ultimately be making the decision. So we try to create demand generation at the top of the funnel based on those personas, to then get people interested and get them, down to the bottom of the funnel where we generally, once people find us, they generally are pretty excited to use the service. And, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but our repeat customer rate and our NPS scores and everything tell us that we delight our customers once we get them. So yeah, and if we think about the channels that we pursue, we've tested most of them, and we continue to test the ones that we use most heavily. So we generate demand, at the top of the funnel, mostly in Meta, and a little bit in Google. We have quite a defined mix. Google is traditionally, demand capture at the bottom, and we spend an awful lot on Google and Bing. Bing does exist; people do use it, and it actually works really well for us.
Yeah.
For a company, we only deal with businesses, as in we are not attracting and do not wish to attract consumers. Bing has been a fantastic channel, so it returns at a much better rate than Google does. And then we use a service called HubSpot, probably most people are familiar with. That allows us to see not only who's the person who has come through to us, but potentially what company they're from, who are the people in the company that are involved in the purchase process, and how can we reach out to those people. So we do a number of things, and it's not perfect, but we are constantly finding ways to improve and get better at that.
Thanks so much.
And it's very important to note too that because we are positioning ourselves as the digital destination. One of my hypotheses early days was that there wasn't going to be a lot of digital competition, and we found that to be true. So there's not a great deal of people in this space. Although funny enough, when I click on my ads, I didn't see the ads of the people who are on it. But there's not a tremendous amount of competition in the digital advertising space at this time.
Yeah.
And that will change. Again, when I talk about the opportunity and the fact that we need to grab it, that is changing. It will change. It'll change quickly. So we need to grab the land as quickly as we can.
Thank you. Okay, 2 final questions, and then we'll just wrap up with a few comments and wrap up the webinar. 2 questions about your platform. 1, are there any pitfalls in your platform that you're aware of? And 2, how much has the platform cost to build to date?
The platform's been about $650 to date. Look, yeah, there are a couple of pitfalls in the platform itself. Like I mentioned before, we can do better things about the way to get a quote and the way that is actually delivered back to the customers. So there's obviously a couple of kind of further up the value chain things that we need to do better. But from a transaction level, and to be able to go on, upload your logo, enter a quantity, and check out, the business runs, the platform runs incredibly well. The main pitfall, given the current state of where it's at, would be because it's got a design element when you're placing an order, doing it on a mobile is a challenge, because there's simply, if you just think of a mobile device, there's just not a lot of real estate on that screen. So if you've got a logo that you're trying to place on a drink bottle, there's not a lot of display space for that mock-up to actually look as well as what it's going to look when you're on a desktop, laptop, or when you get the physical product. So there are some challenges at a mobile level. Most people don't keep their company logo on their phone anyways. So that's the challenge from a mobile perspective, is the real estate available for the what you've got to do to check out.
And again, Sam mentioned the quote piece already. We thought we were doing people a favor by killing the quote, but a lot of people still need it, right? So if you're placing an order and you have to go get it approved from your manager, you probably want to see multiple different price points, et cetera. So I'll be honest, the instant quote function that we have on the site today, it works, it provides an answer, but it sends I would argue, the ugliest email that we send, and we need to make that better. Like, that's an important part of the process. So look, I think there's always things that we want to improve and make better. And yeah, I think the mobile piece is we have a specific acquisition play for mobile where we try to, instead of getting them to transact simply because the screen is too small, we try to generate a lead instead. But it's hard. And we're never going to be able to solve the physics of the small screen. We will.
I'm going to squeeze in one more question, and then thank you to anyone else that has questions. I just want to highlight, this isn't your last opportunity to ask the founders question. Once you register an expression of interest in the campaign, you will have ongoing access to ask as many questions as you need in Virtual's platform via the dashboard. And Ben, Brian, Neil, Sam, they love speaking with their investor base, and so they'd love to have a conversation with you at any further time as well. But just to finish off with a question. There's just a question about the fact that you don't hold on to stock. Where are your suppliers located, and where does production take place?
Yeah, so I can answer that. So our supply chain partners, probably 95% of them are onshore in Australia. So the way the industry is structured is a little bit like a reverse hourglass, where you've got about 15 suppliers that make up the bulk of the supply to the industry. There's probably about 60 in total, but 15 are large, sort of $75 million plus companies. AS Colour is a great example. Belwa is another one. Then you've got this massive balloon of distributors, which is the area that we're disrupting. But at the supply chain, essentially most of the products, probably 95% of the products that we get, are sitting blank in Australia at the moment. And so we either partner with the blank goods provider, like AS Colour, and we've got a supply chain partner that does the decoration, and then it goes from AS Color decorated to the customer, or we've got some supply chain partners that do in-house decoration. So, you know, it could go within their facility. It goes from, and High Sierra Backpacks is an example. It goes from the backpack, they decorate it in-house and send it directly to the customer. So we don't have sort of any inventory risk and it's by design, because you've got to have extremely deep pools of inventory to make it all work. And when you're carrying deep pools of inventory, it's a very different focus than focusing at the customer level. Like, they're two sort of very difficult things to focus on. And we feel that if we delight the customer through a asset-light, digital-focused platform like what we've got, and we plug in the supply chain into that platform, we can then really focus on innovation and how we can make that customer's experience next level. It also gives us the opportunity to, because we don't have the anchor of inventory sitting underneath the platform, that we can take the platform to New Zealand, or we can take the platform to Singapore, or we can take the platform to, say, Hong Kong, and we can plug in the local suppliers within that through our asset light, digital focused platform that sits on top of it as the intermediary.
Thanks so much. I think that's a great note to end on. That's all we've got time for, but thanks again to Neil, Brian, Sam, Ben, and also to you, Josh, for joining us today. And a big thank you to our audience that's engaged with a really insightful conversation. I hope you've all learned a lot. Hopefully it's just the start of your journey in understanding and meeting Mercher and the team. Now, I mentioned earlier, a recording of this video will be sent around later today. The expression of interest campaign for Mercher, it's currently live and it's closing next Tuesday when they launch their offer. The offer will be live for a 2-week period. So the private offer itself, that will launch specifically to the EOI list next Tuesday. And that list will have access to the terms of the offer, all contained in the offer document, as well as all the financial statements and all the details and missing information that you need to make an investment. So please check that out. Jump onto the profile on the virtual website and you can go from there. Now, just a note, if you would like to invest over $10,000, you will need a wholesale investor certificate. There are more details about that on Virtual's website, and the team will also distribute some information about that ahead of the offer going live. The early access offer campaign, again, it will open on Tuesday, 3rd of September, and yes, it will be open for 2 more weeks. So any more information, please reach out to the founders directly. They'd love to have a chat. Thank you again for your time this afternoon. And that's all from us.
Come join us.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.